Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Colouring Easter. This is the last episode. Well done for watching all these episodes. I hope you've really been enjoying them. Well, we heard in episode 2 how Jesus died on the cross. Even though he'd done nothing wrong, he willingly went to the cross to die, to take the punishment for all the bad things that other people, including us, have done. What an amazing act of love that was. Well, what happened next? Now, I know that some of you already know, but for some of you, it's going to be a complete surprise. I'll see you again at the end of the film for our quiz. Enjoy episode 3.
Are you the kind of person who likes surprises? Or do you like to know the grand plan? I cannot cope with surprises. Whoa! I'm sweating just thinking about it. When I first got married, we had one golden rule. No jumping out from behind walls. Come on! Oh, it's not even funny. I just get angry. Like the kind of anger when you bite into what you think is a chocolate muffin, but the chocolate chips turn out to be raisins. Ew.
There are other surprises that are much more enjoyable, like birthday parties, snow days, and finding a great toy in a Kinder Egg. But there is one surprise that's unlike any other, and it took place on that very first Easter.
After Jesus died, he was taken down, wrapped in cloth, and placed in a tomb. Just to make sure no one could get in, a large rock was rolled in front of the tomb. That is a nice boulder. And out of fear that someone might steal the body, Roman soldiers were told to guard the tomb.
A couple of days later, some women came to visit the tomb. But this is where things get really interesting. Because just as they arrived, the Bible tells us that there was yet another earthquake, just like when Jesus died on the cross. Except this time, angels came down from heaven, shining as white as snow, and rolled the large rock away from the front of the tomb. They could hardly believe their eyes. And as you can probably imagine, the guards who were looking after the tomb were so afraid that they just froze, not knowing what to say or what to do.
This wasn't like opening a Kinder Egg. It was the most incredibly surprising news anyone could ever hear. The angels turned to the women who were standing there and said, "Why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive? He isn't here, he is risen." Jesus, the one who had come to rescue the world, the one who had been crucified and buried in a tomb, was alive.
From that moment on, Jesus was seen in all kinds of places. He was eating and chatting with his friends. He turned up to a dinner party to the surprise of everyone. Mark would have lost it. We even read that Jesus showed up to over 500 people at one time.
This isn't just a really cool story, although it is pretty cool. The resurrection, Jesus rising from the dead, is a game changer. This shows us that Jesus is more powerful than death. And I believe that this is incredible news, because even when I experience difficult times in my life, Jesus shows me that suffering and death are not the end. Because of Jesus, there is hope that one day there will be no more death, or sorrow, or crying, or pain.
For me, this shows God's extraordinary love for us. Even though people ignored God and turned their backs on him, He never gave up on his creation and did exactly what he said he would do. By dying and rising in this way, he dealt with the brokenness in the world and made it possible for the friendship between God and people to be restored, so that we can experience love and life in all its fullness if we follow him. This news has changed my life because I know that no matter what mistakes I have made or will make, that I can turn to God knowing that he loves and forgives me.
After Jesus had risen from the dead and appeared to people, the Bible then tells us that he went up to heaven and that his friends went on to start the Christian church as we know it today. Jesus' friends were so impacted by what had happened on that very first Easter that they gave everything to share this good news. They wanted everyone to know the lengths that God would go to show his extraordinary love.
Well, I hope you enjoyed film 3 and heard all about that brilliant surprise of Jesus rising from the dead again after he'd been crucified, laid in the tomb, and he rose again. That's a brilliant story. It's the most important thing that ever happened. That's what we believe as Christians. Well, here's our third and final quiz. See how much we remember about what we learned. Here's question 1. What was the one golden rule Mark had when he got married? Can you remember the thing that he talked about he didn't really like? Have a wee think about that. Here's question 2. According to the Bible, what steps were taken to make sure nobody could steal Jesus' body from the tomb? Can you remember what they did to make sure no one could steal it? Have a think about that. Question 3. When the women arrived at the tomb on Sunday morning, why did the angels say they wouldn't find Jesus' body? Can you remember what that angel said to those women that came? Here's the next question. Jesus appeared to lots of people after he rose from the dead. How many people saw him on one occasion? Can you remember what that was? Have a think about it. What are some of the bad things the Bible says won't be in heaven? Can you remember any of them? If you could just remember one or two, that'd be great. And the last question, what do Christians believe that Jesus made possible by dying and rising again? Right, that's an important question. Here's the answers. What did Mark not like? What was his rule when he got married he didn't like? Surprises, no jumping out and giving him frights. He doesn't like that, evidently. Okay, I hope you remember that one. Here's the next question. So what steps were taken to make sure no one could steal Jesus' body when it was in the tomb? Yep. A large rock was rolled in front of the tomb. It was so big, it must have taken loads of people to move it. So that they thought that was going to keep that body in there. When the women arrived at the tomb, they saw that angel who told them, you won't find Jesus' body in there. It was because Jesus wasn't in there anymore. Jesus had risen from the dead. That's the whole big story of resurrection and of Easter, that Jesus rose from the dead. Now, how many people did Jesus appear to after he'd risen from the dead and he was going around and people could see him? And on one occasion he was seen by 500 people. That's a lot of witnesses, isn't it? And what are some of the bad things they told us weren't going to be in heaven? They are going to be, if you remembered any of them, death, sorrow, crying, and pain. That's a promise God gave us of what it would be like in heaven. And what do Christians believe that Jesus made possible by dying and rising again? And that was for people to have a friendship with God. That's why Jesus died, so that we could have a friendship with God. Well, everyone, I hope you've enjoyed watching these 3 films, and I hope you've enjoyed learning something about the Easter story. Right at the beginning, I was telling you these films are going to tell us why we have Easter, and also what Easter means for you and me. And I hope that as you've been watching the films, you've been able to see that what Easter means for you and me is that because of what Jesus did, we can have a friendship with him. Now, you can find out a lot more about that by going to one of your local church, maybe joining an SU group in your school if you've got one. And but if you want to know more, be sure to contact one of your local churches, and they'll make you welcome and help you learn more and more about Jesus. Everyone, thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed Colouring Easter, and I hope you have a really great time in your Easter holidays. God bless.